It's all good. We're safe in this. They can't get us up here. The Nazis can't get me if I'm high up. Jesus. Oh, jeez, my hat. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Forgotten Podcast. I'm your host, Cam and Joe, and we're joined here once again by none other than the Cynic himself, Mr. Mass Cynic.
How disappointing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're finally here. It's episode 40, the first Red Raid episode in 10 previous episodes, and it is the end of season 4 of the Forgotten Podcast, meaning we're at a bit of a checkpoint, I guess you could call it. We did do a bit more of a script for obviously the intro, but I'm kind of just going to go off the rant from that because it doesn't really need it to be said. But I got to be honest, guys, low-key, like genuinely joke aside and whatnot, we're very glad to be here. We didn't really know, like, and being serious here for a minute because we'd be messing around off camera. I'm sure Joel plays some of the very lovely moments. Okay.
Honest, I'm looking forward to editing this now.
Yes, it's
I
gonna be
came
lovely.
into this episode feeling like absolute garbage.
Yes,
So
and hopefully
this has been a
spirits
nice
will.
little
Hopefully they'll get
lifted.
worse. I was hoping they'll get worse.
Right, well,
That's
we're
what
definitely
I
on
was hoping.
opposites today, aren't we?
That's what it is. Yes, opposites today. But yeah, so it's episode 40, guys. If you already know, of course, if you're new to our channel or our podcast, basically what we do is every 10 episodes of the podcast, every episode, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc. We just take a break and we use what is called a Red Raid episode to basically do kind of like a channel update. It's the end of the season. It's the end of the show kind of thing for that season, for that chapter. And it's kind of our checkpoint for the show where we can just kind of sit back, relax, and kind of reflect on what we've just done. I kind of want to just say real quick, we didn't really get to do this on episode 30, and I guess kind of joke probably pitching more of this. And if you've watched episode 30, you'll kind of know this. We were recording episode 30 now, what was that, back at Christmas? It was just before Christmas.
It was just before,
18th,
yeah.
I think it was like the 18th of
18th,
December
17th, and I think we 19th as well, I think.
Yeah, the
Maybe.
19th as well, I think, maybe. But we recorded episode 30, which was our first kind of Red Raid episode, our first proper one. We came back with episode 20 of the podcast, and I mean, building off of that real quick, like it's absolutely phenomenal that we've doubled the episode count. We came back at episode 20 not yet
14
forgotten.
itself is something that is like outstanding for a standalone podcast.
Yeah.
I know obviously standalone is a vague concept because we both run our own things, but
Yeah.
you look at other channels and the other podcasts out there. I've seen a few, and they usually stop at around episode 5 if you're lucky.
I mean, we know plenty of friends. Like, there's plenty of friends in our community that are now kind of upcoming with podcasts, and we've seen podcasts like Planet Podcast. I mean, that's a perfect example. They only had one episode, like that was it. There was 2, but they never got released. That was with you.
But it's like my friend Rob as well. Part of the community. I'm not sure how well you know him, but he comes in and out.
Right.
But he started a podcast recently. He followed me up a few weeks ago saying, hey, I was on the way to work at the time, so I couldn't do it. But it's like, hey, I need to revive my dead podcast. I've got 2 episodes, one that I uploaded 2 years ago, and I want to do episode 2 today. I'm like, schedule. Makes me feel bad.
It's one of those things where a lot of podcasts genuinely don't get past the first 10 episodes. A lot of podcasts kind of struggle and stumble and don't find their feeting. And by the first 10 episodes, they don't really go anywhere. They inherently end, which is a real shame. We were very fortunate to get past the first 10 episodes. And then obviously we got to episode 19, and that's kind of where we stopped. And then we returned with episode 20, now back on October 30th, 2021. And well, here we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost a year later, and we've doubled the episode counter. We're at episode 40 after a bit of a hiatus a few times and stuff like that, which we're going to talk about today. I don't know. I don't even really know where we're going to begin, though. I want to kind of talk about episode 30 real quick, though, just for a minute, because episode 30 was our first Red Raid episode, for anybody who doesn't already know. And officially, our first Red Raid episode, because after episode 20 was our return episode, but then it was kind of after that return episode that me and Joe kind of both started doubling down. Joe came up with the really genius idea of like labeling the episodes by color, and then I kind of built off of that. I made it into like a playlist of stuff, and we kind of worked for that.
That was originally a concept, it's so ingrained into how we run things now that it feels so natural, Well,
that's it. We now have we have 4 kind of key playlists for our channel. We have all the episodes, of course, which is one thing, but that's not related. But we have our Red Raid episodes, which is every once a season. That's what we call our checkpoint episodes, or it's like a channel update episode, which is this, which is more just for our community. It's not for growing. It's not for really gaining views. It's more just for us to tell you guys what the season was like for us and what we struggled with and what we've improved upon.
Check as well.
Having
like a progress tracker. Like if you look at episode, and the idea is we'll have it in a playlist at some point. If we don't have it already, I can't remember.
I think we do.
Red Rated.
We do.
If we do, then that's perfect. Yeah, I've just not checked the individual playlist in a little bit. But if you look at 1, 10, 20, 30,
Yeah,
40, and obviously they are now 40, you're going to see a drastic change in people, difference, the way that happens, the way it's run, and just overall quality of life changes. And I think there's a
improving
lot
and
to
changing.
definitely
Yeah.
speak about now because we've made a lot of improvements
Yeah,
recently.
I think one of the things like I think you put in the playlist because Joe like when I made the playlist, Joe thought the color rating idea right, which was the original idea for the channel, and that was after episode 20 when when we returned. We kind of came back, we started rebranding thanks to Joe's help with his friend, and then God love her, she came in and she kind of like remodeled it and made it a little bit more polished, which is great. And then we had our channel art, but then there was still a lot that we still had to kind of discover. You know, from episodes 20 to 30, we'd like really just it was our return episode arc. Like that was kind of that season of the show, season 3 was just us kind of returning to build the podcast again because we had to rebuild it. We called it, I think it was like our returning arc. That's what we called it. But like Joe, I think you actually, I think I had like you had listed it or named it in the plot, like in the playlist. It's still there. As like the episodes are used to be able to, like you said, be able to kind of reflect upon how much we've changed and grown, and how much like we're trying to get to that kind of perfect product, if you want to call it that kind
They're
of thing.
like
That perfect product.
checkpoints progression wise, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind of like we're putting in staples to say like, okay, there's been 10 episodes here from hypothetically 10 to 20. There's going to
yeah.
be not a massive difference because it's 10 to 20, but there is
Mm-hmm.
going to be a big change as
A
opposed to being
change.
like, okay, check 20 and 22. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, every 10 episodes, that's a significant amount of time and work to like keep monitoring. So if you look at, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, even if you don't want to go in between tens, if you look at episode 1 compared to episode 40, look how different it is.
Yeah,
Look how
exactly.
nice and more polished it is.
Well, that's
It's
it.
just
I
worth
feel like
keeping
we,
track of.
I honestly must say, like, I feel like we're at kind of a point now where we really have kind of like honed in our skills to making the show to a point where like it's at a level where we both are very comfortable with it. There's still things that we can improve upon, and we are right, and we're going to talk about that today, of course. The things that we've started to change throughout this season, and what will probably be coming into the next season, of course. And also just the future of the podcast, because I think for a lot of people right now, and this kind of something I want to touch on right away, a lot of people don't know if this is going to be the end of the podcast, and that's kind of like a really like whoa, that's a big thing to say. But myself and Joe have kind of kept a little bit quiet. I've been a little bit more vocal about it on my streams, but we kind of haven't really shared what the future of this podcast looks like. It was quite publicly known that me and Joe were struggling throughout the season. There was a lot of kind of turmoil, especially from the later end of the season, 35 onwards. Um,
Which
it
we'll
was
cover.
yeah, which we'll cover exactly. I think a lot of people kind of I kind of had said it myself. You know, I think Joe and you kind of knew this. We kind of publicly kind of said it kind of privately as well. But whatever, we kind of made it clear that like 40 was kind of the end of the chapter. We were going to end the show not forever, but like we were going to come back to it at some point. But we were going to
We
take
were
an
going to
extended
take
break.
a bit of like a hiatus
Yeah.
sort of thing. We weren't going to end it, but we were going to say, hey, not for now, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. We wanted to wrap it up though. Like, our main goal was to be able to wrap up the show. We didn't want to do what we done with episode 19 or whatnot, where we took, or 18, or even 16, whatever. We didn't want to do kind of like a months and months and months break. We rather, if we are going to take a break from the show, we rather finish off the season and get to that Red Raid episode and kind of lock down that season and that chapter, and then say like, hey guys, we're taking this break. This is what's happening. And at least you have like the full complete season from there and onwards and whatnot. You know what I mean? But that's kind of changed. But no, so like, yeah, I don't really know where we should begin with this. It's kind of a bit of an awkward thing
I
for us
think one
because,
of we should start of one of two things. We've got kind of a big difference, which I felt we've not addressed that we probably should, is probably the backdrops and
yeah,
why
yeah,
they are
yeah,
so different. For
yeah,
those of you wondering, we actually, if you could make the deduction,
yeah,
we've moved. I'm not sure if you
yeah,
remember my old setup. It was quite all over the place. It was like the two shelves in the background, the big blue chair, and the Wi-Fi back then used to be really horrible. My situation was a lot worse. I couldn't record at certain times because of just noise levels, and it's still kind of the case, but there's a lot more lighter now. And basically, I've just moved in at my other house with my other set of parents, so I've got a nice new backdrop, which is nice because I've been able to actually customize it for said podcast and not like, integrated my childhood room into like something that it's not. Like this
yeah,
is kind
yeah,
of purposed for this. So I've
yeah,
got the
yeah. The
nice
backdrop and
new wall
everything.
full of, media related stuff that I like and makes the backdrop look a lot nicer, which is quite nice. And I know, there was a little bit of time where recording was quite awkward to do. And I think that made a few episodes
Yeah,
quite hard. And just
yeah.
for a comparison, for those that are wondering, what was the big difference? What really made it so difficult with the other house? If you take a look at episode 30, near the end, you'll realize that I go pretty damn silent.
Yeah.
And that is because there is someone in the household I'm not too fond of, and he clearly didn't like me speaking at around, what was it,
It was
half
like not
past
even late.
midnight?
was like,
It
yeah,
wasn't that
it
late
was
at all.
midnight, but it wasn't. It was
It
like
wasn't late.
the 8th. It was 18th of December. Like we're getting close to Christmas, and you're sitting just chilling. Like it was a week before
Yeah,
Christmas.
I don't think he had work the next morning. I wasn't being. I don't think I'm a miraculously loud person. I don't think that's the right
No.
word at all. But you understand,
Mm.
But I wasn't being loud. I wasn't like screaming. And I get some people are like that, and I can understand why they'll be upset. And if they are like that, come in and say, "Hey, do you mind turning it down?" My situation was not like that. I wish it was. But he proceeds to come in my room. I mute my mic because I'm like, well, I would rather
This is
this not
during the
be called.
recording. Maybe just add like this was during
This is
episode 30.
literally last 20 minutes of
You can
episode
see it in the
30.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very evident. Comes in. Am I going to have to listen to your bullshit all night in a really fucking loud voice, which is louder than probably I had been all night? And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's kind of uncalled for. I
Mm.
don't like you anyway. Fuck you. It's kind of that ongoing
It
thing
was
of
really
like,
annoying, man.
it's so rude.
It was really rude and annoying. This was like how we couldn't really do a proper Red Raid episode last time because episode 30 was like that was our checkpoint. You know, it was like it was close to Christmas. This was like the end of our like return saga or our return arc, and we were talking about that. We were reflecting about how we made the shorts channel and how we had done this and how we had done that, and the
We're
brand
showing the
changing, the
logo
logo
and
changing.
everything.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah,
was a
and
big
everything like that.
recap.
There
It
was a
had
lot
to
of
be
things
cut
that
short on
changed.
my end.
Yeah, that was it. And then Joe was like, he had to mute. Like I remember Joe putting in because we have a private chat during the recording, because a lot of people might not know this. We have a private chat that we can see during like as we're recording, and it's for more. I mean, it's mainly for guests when they come on the show. They can basically type in there and say like, "Hey guys, can I get a few minute break?" That's how you might see in certain episodes. Perhaps me or Joe might kind of notice. We might look across and notice the chat, and then we have to pause or take a break. It happens, right? But Joe was like unable to speak, like for like the whole. I think it was like 40 minutes in or 30 minutes in, and then from there to like the hour mark, he was unable to speak at all. Like even after the recording, Joe had to
I
type.
understand noise pollution and the way people can be when it's night, but like there is a certain level of courtesy that
The
you
closest
kind
door.
of need to just expect from people when you're doing that sort of thing. I don't know. There's something about it that just really annoyed me, and I just thought, you know what? It's nice to have a fresh new slate, work with new things, make a new set, make it all look as professional as possible, and just really keep on top of it instead of, adapting to a place that clearly isn't going to work out when here it really has. Like I've got although it's not too functional at the moment, I've got a door to my right which is covered by a soundproof curtain, so it's like a weighted curtain that noise doesn't come through because it's meant to be soundproof. Although
Yeah.
my little sister did walk in and rip half of it off the wall, so technically it isn't very functional at the moment. But at
It
least
doesn't
the
prevent
effort is
children
there.
from coming through. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't
No,
prevent
it
the
doesn't. It's
children.
not childproof. That's what the
If
axe is
only.
for. But
Exactly, you know what I'm saying?
like genuinely, it's just I don't know. It's so much nicer in here to record. The other thing that kind of pushed me over the edge to be like, yeah, I'm definitely moving is I know it might be weird, but I bought my new PC, and the other room would have taken ages to clean because like I said, it was my childhood room, so it's like a build up of ages and stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not gonna set up a grand worth of equipment in a really short space where it could probably easily get damaged. And there's evidence that it probably would have anyway, because my
Yeah.
keyboard, I'm still using my old keyboard. I've not got a new one, and it's got a massive scratch along the middle because people like chuck shit on it. So I'm not staying there
Yeah.
when I can have it being nicer here. Now I've got my dual monitor set up. I've got everything nice and neat. I'm cleaning it myself all the time. I don't have an overabundance of stuff in my room like at the other one, so I'm not constantly dusting everything. It doesn't look tacky or horrible. I like it. I know I've got loads of posters and crap on the wall, but I'm quite minimalist. I do enjoy
Yeah.
having the white background. I know it sounds stupid, but it
It's
reminds me
nice
of
though.
like 2014 YouTube where everyone was in a dorm.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I like it. It's a lot nicer. Very
I
grey.
think I think honestly, when it comes down to it, that's kind of what's made this the season so difficult. I got to be honest. I don't with Joe here, of course. I think we both kind of really agree on this one. A lot of you probably watching or listening will have kind of noticed if you look at our our upload rate, especially over the past 3 months, 4 months, we kind of everything just kind of went to shit. You know what I mean? And it was like, what the hell?
Especially
Like
my
being real,
channel.
like it sounds bad, but it's like what the hell happened, guys? Like what was going on? Like if you guys don't know, I said we came back for episode 20, and from episode 20 to episode 24, we were consistent. Like 20 was the first episode, so we done 5 weeks of pure consistency. Every week for 5 weeks we're active. Then between episode 24 and 25, there was an extra week without an episode because that was for VIP Man's or Dan's episode. But that was fine. That was just because it was for Dan. It was really important we got him on. We got him on though. We done Dan's episode, and then the week after that we had Shedwards, and the week after that we had Rollies, and these were the Christmas ones. And then we had the Tragic Tale of 2022 the week after that. Like, we were consistent every single week, except from between episode 24 and 25. We missed 1 week. And then that was the same up to episode 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and then there was episode 30, 35. And after episode 34, that's where all the issues kind of arise. Like, episode 34 onwards was where, like, the whole show, like, we had turmoil, like, genuinely. Like, the first thing was the amount of fuck ups we had this season. We didn't really we planned the season ahead as we do, but what happened was, basically, a lot of people may remember this if they listened to episode episode 30. We did announce that we had a new series coming to the podcast channel, or the podcast, and the new series was going to be where we're collaborating with podcasts. It was going to be called the Gold Rated episodes. So we have red rated, green, blue, and purple. Blue and purple are for interacting and also interviewing upcoming content creators between 500 and 10,000 subs, and then obviously 10,000 onwards. And then we have the red rated episodes, which is where we just talk and give channel updates. And then we have the green rated, where we talk about subjects, and that was it. But the fifth new series to come to the podcast, the newest thing to come, this is something that wasn't old, that's been reinvented. This is something that's entirely new, was going to be a podcast collaboration episode once a season, every fifth episode in. So every episode 25, 35, 45, etc. Halfway through the show or the season, we would help another podcast grow, but they would also help us grow by collaborating with us, because it would just be awesome and it'd be a really cool experience. But that just didn't work this season. And the reason why was because episode 34 was the final episode for before me and Joe both moved. If you watch that episode, what's actually mad about that, right, is this is the truth about it. Episode 34 with Fry Brian, we'd been consistent from episode 30 onwards, right? Episode 30 released on like January, I think it was 14th or something like that, was it? It was like a couple days after our birthdays.
I remember we both wanted our birthdays off.
Yeah, we pre-recorded Rolly's episode, Hilo's episode, and the Tragic Tale of 2021 was recorded way beforehand because that released on New Year, and we recorded episode 30 as well beforehand. So those were all recorded. We came back though after a bit of a hiatus with episode 31. That was where we came back, right? But we were consistent. So episode 31 came out, and that was kind of marked by a bit of like annoyance, because at the end of the episode, I don't know if you remember the whole thing, obviously not to mention too much of the controversy, but at the end of the episode, remember someone made a video of my dad. Remember, like, that whole thing popped up.
Yes.
That popped up at the end of that. That happened. And then we done Dragon's Redemption, which
I've
was
still got that
32.
video archived on my backup channel.
Same, yeah.
Yeah.
It's madness. But then we done episode 32, which was Dragon's Redemption, and when episode 32 released, we kind of hoped for it to do better. That was like the trilogy episode. It was the end of the era with, the end of all the drama between myself and Dragon. If you don't know, Dragon came on our show for episode, I think it was 12, right? Yeah, it was 12.
I can't even remember. He's been on 3 times. It's just kind of scattered in my brain.
But so for anybody who doesn't know, Dragon came on for episode 12 of the podcast, right? Which was like, way back, ages ago. This is when he was at the very peak of his like YouTube career. He just found his first like bit of success. His video went viral. He's at like 7K or 6K subs. He was on the peak, right? And he came on our show, and his episode ended up being the most popular episode that we've ever released, which had about 1,000 views, right? And then we made another episode on, which was episode 19, which was the Dragon's Downfall, right? And that was where myself, Joe, Zebrus, Sam B, and Rolly Egg all sat there. Joe was there at the beginning, but he did have to leave kind of shortly into it. We sat there for hours. It was our longest episode that we'd done. It was our only streamed episode where we live streamed it. And we sat there and we basically just critiqued him. It was kind of like the whole episode was us just going in on Dragon, like mocking his Patreon, mocking him, mocking his channel.
It didn't feel like, I know I wasn't there for most of it, but watching it back, it really didn't feel like a podcast. It felt like a little bit of a hate video, but like, understandably at the time, but looking back at it, I'm like,
it wasn't really our best work. It definitely wasn't. It's one of the ones that I'm more ashamed of, and thankfully Dan's episode is taking the lead as like the longest episode, because Dan's like actually went for longer. It aired longer than Dragon's Downfall. But we done Dragon's Downfall, and that was after he scammed me out of a PC thing. It was a long story, but that happened, and then me and Dragon fell out. And then 6 months after that, or however long it was, we invited Dragon back on, because we'd planned this in advance. As I said, we planned a lot of this stuff in advance. But we'd invited basically Dragon back on our show as a guest for episode 32. It was kind of perfect timing, because for one, it had been like, I think about 6 months just passed or something, or even more. Or maybe even almost a year, I can't recall. But it had been quite a bit, basically, since the Dragon's Downfall episode, and since Dragon had got kicked out of our community, and he got exposed, and all this and all that. And Dragon was just a kid, and we wanted to give him another chance, basically, right? So we invited him on our show, and Dragon just wasn't he just wasn't himself. Like it was a really weak episode. I can't lie.
It's a
We've
really good example of something we've spoken about quite a lot.
the
It's
guest
we
makes it
can't
better.
really make a good episode without either a good idea or concept, or if we have a guest on, whatever they put into the episode is what we get out. And I know,
Yeah,
like, this is a weird one. Vloop's episode was really good for that.
yeah,
He
yeah.
really put in a lot of effort, and he made that episode really funny, allowing
But
me to edit it in
Rolly's,
such a funny way.
yeah,
And then we had Rollies, which was kind of the
weak.
polar opposite. It was
Yeah,
not to be rude to the guy; he's pretty chill, but like
yeah.
when he
No, no
came on, he
disrespect.
didn't really put in much effort to the way he the way he demonstrated, in the podcast. It's just kind
Yeah.
of I can't do much of that editing
like
wise, and
like Joe
viewer
said,
retention is
yeah,
something.
like Joe saying, like genuinely, it's an honest to God truth, guys. Where it's like our thing that we tell our guests after, it was actually after Rollies and Dragons episodes that we kind of started making it more of a reiterated kind of point to people that like if you come on the show, we can Joe can edit it amazingly. Joe can edit it super well, make it funny. He can do what he can do. I can write an amazing script with great questions and do all the research and whatnot, and we can be as both as enthusiastic as possible. But like if you come on as a guest and you don't care and you don't want to put in the effort to be there, or you don't want to put in any energy or try and be at all a bit more kind of like open for the banter and the conversation, we can't do anything with that. Like that's really the bottom line of it. We can't make miracles, and we can't make funny stuff out of shit. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of actually a real shame because with Dragons episode, that also kind of opened to a bit of a cold audience because I do a lot of the promotion for TFP. But when Dragons released, I was actually at my mother's house, because like there was just some stuff going on in my real life. So I went to my mother's for a week. I don't know if you remember this point.
I
I was
do,
at
yeah.
hers. I was at hers for a week, and that's when Forgotten
This was
Creators
when I was
released.
mid-moving as well, so we
Yeah,
both were
yeah.
kind of like out of the
It
TFP
was
picture for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this was it because Joe was not moved yet, but he was in the midst of moving stuff, and I went to my mum's after Forgotten Creators. Like Forgotten Creators was recorded, then we recorded Wasabi's, Doctor Wasabi's, and Dragons in advance, and then we pre-recorded them because I said I'm gonna go away for a week, and then that during that week away, I was gonna try and type up a good script for Frybry's because Frybry was gonna be our biggest guest in the show, but he didn't really have that much interesting about him that I could find online. It was quite difficult to really make a good script for him because it was just there wasn't that many kind of things that I could see online that really helped make really good questions from, and I wanted to give him a good experience, and because he'd been really persistent and want to come on our show. But we got Dragon on, as I said, and Dragon's episode just felt really weak. It felt very flat. If you watch it, it's kind of evident that Dragon didn't really care to be there. He was there and he cared to be there. It wasn't as bad as Rollies, but it just didn't feel as good. It was like the
I just
trilogy
also
as
feel
well.
like I'm sorry if he sees this and it comes across
No,
personal,
yeah,
but
I've got
I
no
just
issue with
want to
Dragon
say
at all.
quickly, yeah, no hate towards the guy, but I also just feel like he doesn't fit the community anymore. Like not from my
Yeah,
view, but I just feel like
yeah.
he doesn't want to be. Like I'm not sure if you've seen on Discord, but I think he's joined like a furry group now. I think he's a furry. I
He
did
left his
ask him, and
channel.
he told
Yeah.
me that he was, and I'm like, oh okay. Well, I didn't. I called him cringe,
Hmm.
but he doesn't fit our group anymore. Not because
I
he's a
don't think so,
fairy,
man.
but
No, no.
because
I think it was
he
just
just
like
doesn't fit with our group.
When Dragon came on our show for the third trilogy episode, it was like it was a big thing for us because it was like ending all the beef, right? But it kind of been kind of sidetracked because Dragon, when we initially invited him on like months prior, and like about a month or whatnot, 2 months prior to like say like, hey, let's squash the beef, let's make this happen. No, only if you do this, the whole thing had been settled. So by the time he came on the show, that was very anticlimactic, and Dragon just wasn't really like all in it. He wasn't really fully with it. He wasn't really fully invested in it. And then Dragon had already quit his main channel, or just afterwards he quit. He quit doing his main channel and quit his podcast that he'd only made one episode of anyway, and he'd kind of just walked away from YouTube. So it was kind of like it was a really sad episode to see it go like that because that we had high hopes for that. But then after that, something weird kind of happened. And this was kind of like a really weird era for us. We had our first kind of viral videos on the podcast. We had Dr. Wasabi's, which was just fantastic. Wasabi came in there with a
I
lot of energy,
loved
and that was
Dr.
great.
Wasabi's episode.
Yeah,
It
Wasabi
was
was
so
freaking 10 out of
it
10.
was so chilled. It got to a point in that episode where I felt like we actually weren't following like a
A
question
script or
script
anything. Yeah,
because
yeah.
it just flowed so nicely to the point
And
where it was just
yeah.
chill.
Yeah, and Wasabi was just great. Wasabi came on, and Wasabi's episode was fantastic. Wasabi was the smallest creator at this point that we'd had on the show. He was actually smaller than Rolly Egg, so Wasabi was the smallest creator we'd had on the show ever, like since our return to the show, right? If you
Mm.
don't count Tiki, right? Which
Or Kiwi.
I don't get, or Kiwi way back in the day, but since our return. And just, I mean, it was a really mad episode because we talked about, his experience of dealing with having cancer and obviously being a Minecraft builder, and there was so many different things, but mainly the cancer subject. But he was so open, he was so forthcoming, he was so willing to be a part of it, and he was so invested in it that it made it such an incredible episode. And that episode popped off, and it's currently right now our most viewed episode with 3,000 plus views, 3,100 plus, which is insane. And that gave us a massive boost in motivation, but also a massive boost in our channel, which was just lovely. And then the week after that, we were still being consistent. We released the next episode, which was really tight because me and Joe kind of had to record it last minute, and that was Frybrise. And Frybrise was another big episode because he was the biggest guest we'd ever had on. The biggest guest we'd had on at that point in time was Super Shifter, who had, when he came on, 50k, but now he's obviously about 150 or whatever. But Frybrise has got like almost 220, 250k, something like that, in that kind of range. So to get him on the show was a big thing. It was our biggest guest we'd ever had on, and the episode was good. It could have been better. Fry obviously never used a face cam, which was a real shame. He showed his face. He never used a face cam. He never showed his face, which was always a bit of a weaker kind of thing. That kind of sucked. But it was a good episode in my opinion. He did promote it. It did help it get a lot more exposure, and the episode became one of our most popular episodes as well. It got 1.4k views, which was insane. And it was good. It was good, but sadly, that's where everything started to go downhill because we had the first 4 episodes, Forgotten Creators, which had fallen very short. That one really didn't do that well or perform that well. We had Dragon's Redemption, which didn't perform that well at all again. But then we'd had Wasabi's and Frybrise, which had done really good. But then we had this weird stage where, because in Frybrise episode, you can see, like, that was the last episode where Joe's in his old house, and I'm in my old house, my dad's girlfriend's. Before me, my dad got our own actual place, which is where I'm at right now. We have our own place, which is amazing, right? But there was a lot of turmoil going on there, But, like, thankfully we got our own place, and that was kind of the point where we moved. But, like, legitimately, after that episode, Frybrise, Joe had moved that very night. Like, that very night, his dad was waiting on him, getting ready to move, I remember. And then he had moved that very night. And then I moved the very next morning, right after the episode was recorded. So that was, like, for us, I think for me at least, that's a very nostalgic
episode. Was that again, sorry?
34, Frybrise.
Yeah, literally the next morning.
That night.
Yeah.
Was it not at night? Your dad was waiting that night to grab all this stuff, and then that next morning you'd basically got it all, I think.
I think it was like late night, but like weirdly early morning as well. It was I don't know. It's weird. It's such a long time ago now, but like
well, that's it. It's like 4 or 5 months ago.
Another day straight after recording that, it came back to like, oh, I'm in a different place now, and then I was starting to because then no, you're correct. Then the next day I sent you. Or the next few days, I then sent you the new PC and stuff because I went and picked
because you just got a new PC. It was a really big error because Joe just got the new PC, which was a huge thing, right? So he just got a new PC that very day or that very night after the recording of Frybrise episode. Like, we had to Joe was waiting, his dad was waiting to leave, but Joe was putting off so we could finish that episode. But after that, Joe left. He went to move with his dad, obviously, of course, and move house. And then that next morning, me and my dad had just been offered a house a few days prior. That next morning, though, me and my dad moved. We feel like we got a removals van and we moved from my dad's girlfriend's house all the way to where we are right now. And that's where a lot of issues arise, though, because me and Joe both knew that we need a little bit of time to kind of settle in. Joe had a new PC to kind of break in. He had to obviously get used to his new place where he's at. He left his childhood home. I was leaving where I'd been like for the past 10 months, so it was a bit of a weird transition.
We had like a little bit after this. Sorry to cut ahead tiny bit.
Go ahead.
We had like a weird bit when it came to making new episodes. I'd say probably 35, 36, 37.
Yeah. Was that with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I was about to say, but for some reason, I assume it was just my Wi-Fi trying to get used to this new connection to the computer. And I know it's also weird, and this will also put into perspective the upgrade that I got, right? My old PC was honestly, looking back at it now and looking back at like the manual, because I kept it because I want to see the difference. I've not sold it. Well, I sold it to my little brother, so I didn't really sell it, but I did. It was like, the more I look into stuff surrounding that model of PC, the more I feel like I think it's fake. I genuinely think it's not an official brand, and it's very off off
the shelf, off brand.
It's not good. And literally little things like this is wireless. There's no to the Wi-Fi. For the longest time, I was like, that's revolutionary. I know it's not. But like, my old PC had a big Ethernet cable that we chucked out the front window, connected to the router. It's a big chunky thing. This thing's lighter, and it's better in every way. Stupid little things that just amaze me. I can look into the side of it. It's got a big glass window on the side. You can see the stuff inside, and my brain's like, yo, That's cool.
That's
I like
dope.
that.
That's dope.
Means it's good. And price comparison, about how old am I now? 18. Okay, cool. You know, I got it when I was like what, 14, 13, 14? No, I got it when I was like 12ish, I think. So about 6 years ago, I spent £400 on that PC. So imagine a 6 year ago £400 PC compared to a 1 grand today's money PC.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can already just envision the difference, you know.
And it's gonna be
Uh,
better, and it was. But we had this weird period, and that was between episode 34 and 35 because Joe and I had just moved house. I obviously my Wi-Fi had been different where I was at. I think I had a lot of Wi-Fi issues right away. But we just moved. We both had just moved house. We needed a bit of time to get settled in, but also as well, Joe had a new PC, and I was getting things settled at my end and stuff like that. So we decided to make a bit of a compromise. Joe been working on like a podcast trailer for the channel, the first of its type, for a little bit, kind of like a bit of a tinkering like side project. And Joe kind of rushed to get it done, and then the very next week after Fry Bry's episode, we released the podcast trailer, right? And that was like the Forgotten Podcast channel trailer, and that was good. It was good, but that was kind of a stand-in because we both after that we both knew we needed to record episode 35 relatively quickly. But neither of us had a plan. It was going to be like we knew that we wanted to do a podcast collaboration episode, right? And here's the thing, right? We knew that we wanted to do a podcast collaboration episode, but neither of us had really formulated what we were going to do for that because we can't just ask another podcast questions, like another podcast group or podcast host questions. We already kind of do that with the
just
purple rated and
singular
blue rated.
guests.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, we
otherwise
already
it
do
would
that.
feel like having multiple guests on, which would be stupid because
Yeah,
then you
it's
just
just
want
be
to get
stupid.
2 different episodes out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as unique, right? So we were in a bit of a weird kind of place because mentally we're like we want to do something totally new and different that we've never done on TFP before. It's a whole new thing it's new, right? Like it was brand new. So we're like, right, it can't be an episode where we talk about our channels because we kind of do that for the red rated episode. We can't do that. That's a channel update video. It can't be a interview episode, so it can't be a purple rated or blue because it's similar to those two. Those two cover that, right? And it can't be talking about topics because we do that for green rated episodes. So we didn't really know where we really like what we could do. We were both kind of sitting there trying to brainstorm. Neither of us could come up with something. And then lastly, what kind of made it worse was the people that were going to collaborate for that podcast episode. I mean, consider the name Shedwards. Right? Shedwards. Shed has his own his own podcast called Shedcast. And Shedwards was was the optimal guest to have on the show for like the podcast collaboration because Shed had came on for like what was it, episode 24 or 26, excuse me, and he'd had a great
Which
time.
was a phenomenal
and,
episode, by the way.
yeah, it was a great episode. He just became a dad and he was really awesome and it was a great time. But Shed had kind of told us privately behind the scenes. He'd been having troubles with his girlfriend after having the baby, because he was kind of spending too much time working on content and streaming. So he wasn't able to do the podcast collab. And that left us in a really difficult position because that was our plan. So after that, we had to delay the episode by another week. This was like now 2 weeks of hiatus. We'd obviously released a trailer, but the trailer really didn't count as an episode. So it was 2 weeks of a break. But then we managed to kind of fill in the gap and we got on Xavier. And Xavier was a great guest. Xavier, we didn't really know how that was going to go because Xavier was, I believe, Xavier was smaller than Dr. Wasabi. So like Dr. Wasabi had been our
But
smallest
he
guest on
was
the show
also
ever.
our first VTuber to
Yeah,
have
VTuber
on,
guest.
which
Yeah,
was quite
yeah.
a cool little bit of diversity to have on there. So that wasn't too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. That's it.
what was weirder than Xavier's episode was the follow-up episode.
Yeah, World War Three.
World War Three was weird because we never get in any way. I wouldn't say
Political.
we're that political.
No,
when it
no.
comes to being on camera, anyway.
No, we
But
have our opinions, but we aren't really that
we had
political.
some good bits at the end of Loop's episode, which is a bit political.
But,
But like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think we ever like go, okay, this is our stance on
Yes,
this
this is
thing,
our- yes,
which is what
follow
that
it.
episode was, which was weird, and I hate it. I'll tell you why I hate it, because every time I release and I want to put this out here on the podcast now, so people realize this, but
Yeah.
every time that I announce an opinion on the podcast, I feel like it changes the next day, like
Yeah.
genuinely. I don't know.
I know. It was a
painful.
rough one. It was a rough one. But we done episode 35. That was Xavier. We had to message Xavier and say, "Hey man, would you be interested in coming in as a bit of like a quick kind of jump in?" Because we'd already had plans for like again. You got to remember we had actually planned this whole season. We had planned it. There was plans for who we want to come on for episodes 35, 36. We planned it all. And then it just fell apart, man. And we done episode 35 as a bit of a fill-in, and that was with Xavier, and it was because Xavier and Hilo were friends, and Hilo had already came on the show, and also Xavier and Hilo just started their podcast called Outcast, and we thought, well, for maybe next season, for season 5 of the show, for episode 45 or 55, whatever, or maybe 65, in the foreseeable future, it'd be good if we kind of set up the building blocks for the collaboration. Like with us, with collaborating with Shedwards, it kind of was already there because we'd already worked with him. He came on as a guest, so getting him on as a podcast, like another podcaster with his co-host of his podcast made sense. Like we'd already built the foundation there. So getting Hilo on for episode 29 and then getting Xavier on for episode 35 kind of meant that we'd already built that connection, and that meant for maybe in the foreseeable future if we could manage to nail down the idea for the podcast collaboration stuff, we could do it. Like it would make sense. So Xavier decided to come on. Like Joe correctly said, he was our first VTuber, and the episode was a bit plagued because this was our first episode recording in both our new houses, and neither of us had good Wi-Fi. Like the Wi-Fi on both ends wasn't great.
I feel like for a little portion of time, there was a bit of a scenario where your Wi-Fi would be really good, and mine would be really bad, and then they would swap like according to the time.
Yeah.
Like if it got late, mine would get pretty good, but yours would be a bit worse off, and then vice versa.
That's right.
It was weird.
It was a very odd.
I said, it was just adjusting to new Wi-Fi changes at the time. At the moment, literally, I'll be honest, I've done nothing to change the internet. Like nothing has changed since, but it's fine now. I think it was just adjusting to, when internet's like broadbands and stuff are trying to adjust to the amount of devices connected. Maybe the new connection, the new PC. I don't know. It's not really anything that's been different. The weather's not drastic. Well, it's bloody hot, but that shouldn't affect it. It's
That was
I don't know. It was weird.
We had this really weird thing, and it was like it was our first episode in our new house season. We kind of knew it was gonna be a bit bumpy, but it was funny. It was our funniest episode, I'd say. I mean, I know that's a question I want to answer in a minute, but I'd say subjectively it was the funniest episode we recorded. It was just us all laughing nonstop. Joe was a bit kind of miffed about it. You could tell, obviously, then because Joe was having issues. It was Joe's Wi-Fi that was bad on that episode, right? And that was kind of the thing. For some weird reason.
The episode I was getting really pissed off.
Yeah. You could tell Joe was wound up because like it was my internet normally is the worst, and it kind of is, but during the recording, Joe's was just being a bitch to him, and it was getting to a point where like at the end, you went to your bed, like you just went away.
Oh, I actually just went to bed, like genuinely. I was so fucking angry. I'm trying not to swear as much at the moment, but like I was so angry about it. Like I've never been so mad about Wi-Fi. Like I get annoyed in the podcast every now and then for different reasons. Wi-Fi, but the main issue apart from Wi-Fi is heat, because this room is like a sauna. When it is this hot, it's disgusting. But like
the lighting,
it's horrible. But like because I have to shut the windows, because I live next to a main road. So if I open a window, it's like shut up. I'm gonna go put a roadblock up saying I'm doing the podcast, but it's just a pain. Because I'll get really agitated, and then if it goes on too long, I'll get annoyed. And just because I want to bring it up quickly, so I have to say it again later, I do want to apologize if he does watch this to New Freedom for his episode, because I had to depart quite early. Although it was very, it was expected that I had to go at a certain time, but I didn't expect it to be as drastic as it was. I literally had to go back to, like I previously mentioned, my other house to help my mum move some bits around. I can't just go, no, I'm not going to, and families. I'm not going to explain family situations.
No, it is what it is.
So I love that episode though. I think the execution was really good. He had a lot of cool things to say. I recommend that episode to anyone there. But if you notice that I'm not there at the end, that's your reason.
Why. But I said, we done episode 35. That went out, and episode 35 was very well received by the community. That episode gained 1,600 views, and this was like our third episode over 1,000 views from the algorithm. And it was like, yo, we're getting a bit of recognition. This is great. And it was like, yo, this is great. It's all going up, But then this is kind of where the issues started to arise, because after, episode 35 was already an issue, right? We'd taken an extra week to get that out, 2 weeks, but it was okay. We were back on track, whatever. And then we had episode 36, and episode 36 was meant to be Icy's episode originally. And me and Joe both agreed before the season begun, right? And I'll say this right here right now. We both agreed before the season begun that we would both take one episode each to write the scripts and also as well direct, right? Where it would be like Joe would have full control over one episode, I'd have the full control over the other.
Basically, we could choose a host-orientated episode. I'm not sure if you... like Joe does most of the script writing now, if not all of it. I'll jump in every now and then when I can. It's just, he's good at that. And
Joe does all the editing. He does all the editing.
Hand in hand. But we had an idea, and I think we should still continue to do it, obviously, having a orientated episode, because I think as a lot of you will realize, because I know a lot of you do come from Joe's community and that community in general, our community, but it's very Minecraft based. So we get a lot of Minecraft viewers and
Yeah.
stuff. So it kind of narrows down our audience, which is not what we want.
And who we
But
can get on the
so
show and whatnot.
exactly. So by branching out to my side of things, obviously we're all part of one community, but there's loads of subgenres, etc. Main
Yeah.
things are like Minecraft and then probably a bit more Apex Legends as well. But if we go to my side a bit, it's obviously going to be a lot more shooter and commentary based, you know. So I thought who would be good to get on would be Icy Ops, which is someone I met a while ago when I was doing glitch videos, which is probably one of my
On
peak
Apex.
YouTube times on Apex. So, you know, I was doing videos of him that did like really well at the time. They're back on the channel now. They've got like 25k views. It did really well. And we made a lot of good content. We chat a lot. We got on really well. We played Hyperscape. Not sure if anyone remembers that. Died very quickly. So I thought we jive really well. It's very good. We'll get him on the show. And I was very optimistic to do so. But I wish now looking back at it, I wish we waited because I feel like our situations really hindered that episode. But
It did.
not only that, it kind of was pick your own poison. We had not only those issues, but it also got to a point where we had to delay it, where the guest himself was like, "I don't want to come on anymore."
Yeah, so it was really
face.
devastating. We planned, we kind of acknowledged this on the Twitter post and Instagram post for the IC episode, that the episode script had been started a long time ago. Like me and Joe had started the script, and like
If you're
IC
coming
had
on
been
the
planned to come
podcast,
on.
chances are that it already
This had been
exists
planned.
in
Yeah,
writing.
we have a lot of people planned in advance, right? And we pen it down and go, okay, well, who would make sense to get on the season? But IC had been meaning to get on like in the season prior, right? We'd actually tried to get him on the season prior, right? But what had happened was IC was he wasn't at his house. I remember you were the one who told me.
He was at a hotel with a laptop.
He was at a hotel with a laptop,
Yeah.
and he didn't have good equipment and stuff like that. And he said he couldn't do it. And we decided to put off his episode because it made sense, right? Like logically, you know, if he couldn't make it, he couldn't make it. That's understandable. It happens, whatever. But we had wanted to get him on, but he couldn't do it. It was understandable. So we said, right, we'll reschedule. We'll reschedule, and we went, right, we'll do it for episode 36, and that would be Joe's directed episode. Then mine would be actually the follow up episode to that, or an episode after that. Excuse me, mine would be episode 38, right, which would be like the 2 episodes after, because his was a proper guest, and so was mine. So we said, right, we'll do that. And then Joe tried to contact Icy to do it for the second time to to reschedule, and Icy cancelled. Icy was like we'd already written up the script and done quite a bit of the work. Well, some of the work.
Not his exact words, but what he initially said was, "Yeah, when you asked me, I wanted to, but now I don't." You know,
I'm not interested now.
Yeah, fair enough, but like, what the hell, you know?
It was a real kick in the face to us because we've had people decline to maybe come on the show, and that's okay. But when someone's already accepted to come on the show and then later on they've declined, it's a fucking kick in the face because we plan on the season around them.
You have to reschedule everything.
Yeah, and that destroys it.
Properly.
Yeah, and that fucks up a lot of stuff. And IC was someone that we did want to get on. That was Joe's episode to direct. So after Joe told me that, we're in this bit of this fucked up stage where we didn't know what was going to happen. But I ended up messaging IC personally. We managed to work things out, and then IC agreed to come on the show, and that was great. And then we had to kind of restructure the script because so much time had passed since the initial basis of the script had been written by Joe. Things had changed. IC taking a massive hiatus from YouTube, and he was coming back a little bit, but he hadn't really done much. We read the script though, and then we were getting ready to record, but IC was busy. And it was to the point where I think we kind of called this episode a flaky episode, where basically there's certain guests that we feel like kind of potentially are high risk to cancel. And because of that, we have to be very selective on how we schedule around them.
That's also why there's a weird time warp thing. I feel like people don't realize sometimes episodes will be recorded definitely not in order. You know,
that's it.
But
and a bulk.
Stuff that I mean is like, if hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, like, but just as an example, IC was very high risk, as in he might just say no, I don't want to. You know, so if we just recorded it for the same episode, but just at an earlier time. I think there was a little portion of time where we had 2 episodes prior to his recording.
Yeah, there was a teeny bit of time. I believe. Oh, I'm not too sure.
I know there was definitely other bits in the way.
So. There was other stuff that we were doing, but I don't think we had 2 per se and like done beforehand. But yeah, so we planned his out for episode 36, right? Like the whole initial beginning of the show here was like episode 31 was originally not going to be Forgotten Creators. That was a stand-in episode. In fact, it was going to be a Green Raid episode, but it was going to be one that we'd planned 10 episodes prior, and it was exposing Tixter Boom. Like I can outright say this right here and now, because we're fighting this out the window.
I don't think we're going to do this now. Ever.
Never going to do this,
and happily so. I think
so.
The main concern with that was mainly, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
You know, and also just we don't want to
stress.
We've had enough.
2 pedophiles on.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I speak. I'm gonna little segue here. My tutor, like I've graduated college now, But my tutor I study film always keeps saying to me, "Oh, he wants to come on the podcast." So hopefully that will happen at some point. I spoke to
Definitely,
him a few
yeah.
days ago when he was absolutely hammered and he was still down to do it. But the main thing is every time, because people sometimes ask him about the podcast, saying like, "Oh, what does Joe do?" Because like I'm his student, they're his students. Well, I was his student, but he's like, yeah, they've had a hot dog on and two pedophiles. That's how he explains it to everyone. Because we had
Oh, damn it.
Rocky, who dresses up as
Rocky
a
the
hot
hot
dog,
dog. Yeah.
which is a thing I spoke about a lot when we were doing the episode at college, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
two pedophiles. So he always describes it as, yeah,
Yeah.
Joe runs a podcast. He had
Well,
two pedophiles on and a hot dog, and I just think that's the funniest explanation ever.
it's
We just
brilliant.
don't want it to, that's
Be
funny, and
that.
I'm glad we can say that, but I
Yeah,
don't want it to
but
be like,
there's a
hey,
seriousness to it.
we interview pedophiles.
Yeah, that should be part of our branding. That should not be
No,
part
it
of
should
our ring.
not.
A lot of people didn't get though. Like a lot of people in our community weren't very happy at the us interviewing Tiki. Right? If you guys don't know, we came back with episode 20, not yet forgotten. But then what happened with that? You know that whole return arc for us coming back. The majority of that return arc, the guests that you see were people that had already been penned in a long time ago, like Rocky, Shedwards, and Tiki, and even VIP Man and whatnot. Those people had been, the four of those creators were invited on our show like years prior, like at least a year prior, but we just never got round to actually recording them, right? So what had happened was we came back to the show and we had this difficult kind of decision to go, we don't want to just continue and pretend like we never invited these people on. Let's get these guys on. We invited Rocky on, Shed was on. They both agreed to come back on, which was great. Dan incredibly agreed to come back on, which was awesome. His episode was fantastic. It was a great chat. But then it was Tiki. Now, when we initially invited Tiki on to come on the show as a guest, Tiki was a well-established content creator, a couple K subs, a chill guy. He was a good guy, a member of my community to an extent. He kind of came and went a little bit, but he was a content creator who readied people and helped people grow, and he was a good guy. But then, since we took our departure and we took a big hiatus before we came back officially with episode 20, Tiki had been exposed for being a child predator. Like, he had been exposed for asking children for nudes and all that and it was really bad. Like, so we were in a difficult position where it's like, you don't want to interview a predator, you know what I'm saying, and like give him like pretend that's
Another
not the
one.
case. Yeah, another one after the whole Sean thing. But then what do we do? And it was like, right, so goddamn, what do we do here? And it was like, well, we'll interview him, but about him being a predator, and we'll kind of expose it, but we won't, like, we'll try and go in with a very non-biased opinion, right? And that was really subjectively kind of criticized because
There
a
was
lot of
definitely
friends
a
of ours,
split audience.
yeah, a lot of
like,
our
I think it's
friends,
exactly what you're about to mention.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, just essentially there was a divide in the viewer base. People were like, "Why
Yeah.
are you bringing light to it?" Which was stupid because we're not bringing light to it.
No.
We're just saying, "Hey, here's the issue. We'll let you
Yeah.
deduce it." Because when we speak about these sort of things, I personally like to play devil's advocate because not because I want to annoy people. Well, I do, but I want to stay, you know, as non-biased as possible because I like the idea of having. You know, if someone says they like something and I say I hate it, they have to defend it, and it shows how much they like it. So if we did the same with Tiki and say, here is this problem, you can then say I don't like this, and that's a good thing. It doesn't mean you don't like the episode or the podcast.
You don't like the subject.
You agree with us, or you agree with the idea, or you
what
agree,
we're going over.
You know, it's a perspective.
It was a weird thing. It was a very weird thing because for us to make that our first interview episode after such a huge hiatus, and that I was kind of coming back with that. It was like, oh fuck, do we want to do this? But we done it. We interviewed him, but it wasn't like interviewing him like, oh hey, how are you doing today? We genuinely spoke about nothing other than the Predator stuff, right? And why he deleted his channels and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. And by the end of it, we'd gotten him to admit to a lot of stuff, and it was more of like we were not, you know, we weren't against him, we weren't with him,
It felt
we were
like
in the
a
middle.
Confession booth, to be
that
honest.
was kind of what it was. And by the end of it, he'd even admitted some stuff that nobody had known before, including some stuff I'm not going to recite here. If you want to watch the episode, you can, right? It's a bit kind of like graphical, right? Anyway, but yeah, so we done that. But after it, we got a bit of flack, not flag, but like a few members of our community were just not happy with it. A couple even outright didn't want to watch it because they didn't like the premise of it. They didn't like that we were giving this guy a voice, and I totally respected that. So did Joe. We said that from the get-go. We are with you. We don't condone what he's done, and we never have. We're just trying to get him to come on the show because we promised him before that he could come on the show, and we're using that as a bit of an excuse to be able to let him come on again and hopefully entice him to come on so he can admit to this stuff and we can kind of get him to say it, and he did, right? But then afterwards, because of how ill it made us both feel, like after we done it and we finished up with episode 30, like we both kind of, I think both personally felt kind of ill. We felt like we kind of not been hard enough on him or something. So we'd already started penning down a plan to make episode 20 or 31, excuse me, Yeah, episode 31 was going to be Texture Boom Exposed, which is Tiki's actual new name, Texture Boom, right? And the Exposed video was going to show that he never quit YouTube. He never
Because he
taken the
didn't.
break that he promised that he was going to take. He just renamed himself, ran away, made it videos, oh, I'm leaving, guys, have fucking sympathy for me. And he
And he
just
doesn't know
continuously
we
kept
know
coming
this,
back.
by the
No,
way.
he doesn't know we know us. We've got evidence showing that he has never left. We've got all his fucking bullshit apology videos, the whole thing. We were going to make an exposed episode of the podcast. It was going to be like, I like to plan them very well, like Planet Dragons episode, where it was like he came on for episode 12, then it was an interview, and then he came on for episode 32. It was like 20 episodes exactly apart. We like to plan it like that. So his episode was going to be episode 31, 10 episodes after he originally came on, but this time, as opposed to us kind of being in the middle, allowing him to share his voice, this time we were going to expose his fucking predator ass for being a predator and show the proof about it. However, there was a massive issue, and that was that neither myself or Joe could ever do it justice in a podcast exposing it. Like, me and Joe more
We
than
both
easily could
came to
critique
the
it.
agreement saying, like,
Yeah.
hey, we could make a good video on this if we wanted
Yeah.
to. We
But
both
that'd be a
don't.
video. Yeah, that's
Yes,
it. Exactly. Yeah.
we would have to have a video to back it, I think. We would have
Like,
to
we
make a really
genuinely,
nice,
yeah.
well thought out video and then follow up with a podcast.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where it's like, if you just speak about it, you don't want to devalue the fact that it's a very serious topic. You know, if you make a
Yeah.
video behind it, you'd have to really put a lot of thought into it, and none of us want to do that. Joe's
No.
already done something similar. It's not kind of what I do. I'm not a paedophile hunter, but you know, it's I'll put that on my list. Yeah.
Just to give a bit context or to show you guys, right? Let me just try and show this here if I can, if it'll allow me, right? I'm not sure if it'll pop up. Hopefully it will. Like, just to show proof of this, like, this was the thing here. This was the actual, like, this right here was the actual thumbnail for episode 31. We had it penned in. You can see here. There's Tiki himself. Like, we had penned in the episode. This was for, like, that was Forgotten Creators. Like, that was after, right? This is what we ended up coming with, but this was other templates. But this was the actual episode thumbnail. That was going to be episode 31, Texter Boom Exposed, showing his fucking face, the little scumbag that he is, and showing that he hadn't changed a single bit and exposing him. However, again, massive issues arose, which was the factor that neither of us could by right make an exposed podcast episode. It just you can't do that. It doesn't work. We could both make individual exposed videos exposing him for what he is, and then critique it and talk about that video on a podcast, but you can't really make a podcast and exposed video because you can't show the evidence properly, you can't do the right commentary. We just couldn't make it work, but we did try. The script was there. We had even formulated it and tried working on it. So because of that, we ended up pushing that back. We obviously made episode 31. We changed it from being Texture Boom Exposed. We made it the Forgotten Creators episode, and then we pushed that episode back to episode 41, which was going to be obviously this next season, season 5 going into. And then we've kind of obviously planning out the next season, we've just kind of scrapped that. And the reason why, before anybody's like, why'd you scrap it? Again, the same issues arose. We both know that we can't make this podcast episode.
We also don't want to start
exposed.
we don't want to come back to the podcast and be like,
Yeah, we're moving forward.
pedophile.
We're moving forward. We had, Sean on as a guest. He was a guy who stayed at my house. The fan came to live with me, right? He came to live at my house. Of course, he was there. He came on for episode 11, right? And that was us talking about him being a predator, right? And all the shit that he done at my house and stuff like that. And that was a big episode, right? And that came on. And then 10 episodes later, 21, we done this episode about Tiki. And that was, again, the same subject. So we covered 2 predators in the seasons. We were done with it. Neither of us wanted to kind of keep dwelling on that shit. We wanted to keep moving forward and doing our own podcast and not keep bringing up drama and just keep going forward. It was shame, but I know some people would be kind of gutted to hear that. I'm sure they would have found it quite interesting that we could have made that. I mean, Joe both have great commentary skills and we have the ability to make that. But again, we just can't formulate it into an episode, and we don't want to keep going over these subjects. So yeah, that got scrapped. So yeah, going on from there though, as I was saying, back to the Tiki thing. Or back to Tiki thing. Sorry, back to the Icy thing. Get myself kind of lost a little bit there. But back to the Icy thing, obviously. Icy's episode was meant to be episode 36. We got the script done. We were ready to rock and roll. And then Icy, in a nutshell, basically kind of said, yeah, I can't do it this time. You guys will have to reschedule for later. And it put us in a really shitty position because we were trying to be as consistent as possible. After taking a 2-week extra break with, what's it called? With episode 35, with the trailer, and then another week break, then obviously the podcast, episode 35. We both didn't want to be any more inconsistent, so what we done is we had to make a stand-in episode for Icy basically entirely, and that was so episode 36 became World War 3, and that's where that kind of transitions to that.
Which we were never gonna even bring up. We always, whenever there's a new issue or something, we always say we could, but we never do because it's not what we do. It's like I'm not sure if how long people have been here. Obviously, there'll be some people that will know because they've been here for a long time.
Yeah,
we did stuff like that in the beginning. Like we did,
Yeah, Logan
Team
Paul versus
Trees, Logan
yeah,
Paul,
Logan Paul.
and you can
Yeah,
just tell that it's not the right vibe for this show at all.
we don't care about it. Like the Green Raid episodes are more of our just chatting about certain things that we do care about. And Forgotten Creators was interesting, but that was again like hopefully you can understand by us saying that like Forgotten Creators was a stand-in episode that was kind of flung together, hence why it performed so poorly because neither of us were really that passionate about it. It was a good episode, but it was meant to be the Tixter Boom Exposed one, which obviously never happened. Then episode 36 was meant to be Icy Ops's episode. There was planned to be no more Green Raid episodes that season. If you listen to episode 30, we'd both even said that in the next season we want to try and fill the void between the Green Raid episodes and Blue Raid. We wanted to try and because at that point in time there was more Green Raid episodes than Blue Raid because of the how we used to do the old show stuff. So we wanted to try and fill that void and do a lot more interviewing episodes and try and build that up a little bit more because Green just doesn't bring us a lot of subs or views. It's more the blue and purple that help build the channel. But yeah, World War 3 episode was a filler episode that got made kind of on the shot, which was funny. I mean, there was the cutout of my face, from that episode. That was like that's being used now quite a bit, and I like that. I'm a big fan of it. And then there's
I like
usual
the
like
thumbnail, and I also like I like the intro to it.
Yeah, yeah. I think we had funny.
A lot of people have messaged me saying, "What did I actually say when I bleeped my own voice out?" It's quite funny.
Yeah,
but it's just,
well, that's it. We done that episode. I think even with Forgotten Creators, the whole gunshot thing, that was like fucking brilliant. Like that was a great bit of editing. The bang bang.
Like, I forgot about that completely.
Yeah, that was like those were like two mistaked episodes that kind of like we really kind of fucked with. Like they weren't our best work, but they were just fun, and some good came of them. So then finally we done episode 37, which was like I don't know what do we want to even call that? Like 37 was a bit of a fuck up. Would you say? It's your episode.
I'm trying to remember which one 37 is.
Ices.
Yes, like I said previously.
Yeah.
Mine screwed up. He didn't really want to be there. I think he did near like some parts of it. He got quite into it, but
yeah, a bit more into it.
I felt like everything else went wrong. It
was a shame because like what happened in episode 35, right? Episode 36, both our Wi-Fi's were all right? But episode 35. Joe's Wi-Fi was bad. Episode 36, my Wi-Fi was bad. And it was abundantly clear. Like I was jittering all over the place, cutting over Joe at points, and that kind of fucking sucked. And then we tried to make it funny, but if you watch the beginning,
I love how genuine that angle was there.
Yeah, like honestly, like we tried to make it funny. Joe can edit and do good shit with it, but you can even tell like at the beginning of the episode, Joe had actually was like an inch away from just not doing the episode. It was really bad.
That
was really
God,
bad. You forgot about that shit. Yeah.
I keep thinking back at the episode now, and I remember how much I suppressed it.
So what had happened was, you want me to tell the beginning, and then you can go from there.
Please do, because my mind is really foggy. For
so
some reason,
what had happened? Yeah. So what had happened? Right, was that day I got a bath. Right, it's like what a great way to begin it. But like that
really
day,
pissed me off.
that was it. Yeah, no, but I was in the bath anyway, and I was on the steep, and I was getting myself ready because we had planned that day to record the next episode, right, which was going to be we planned to do a stand-in because we didn't know Icy kept canceling and kept being busy and things were coming up and all that kind of shit. We basically planned to get my Get Purple Rated guest episode on there, and then we'd get Icy on later on because we were like, right, Icy probably can't do it right now, and we definitely want to get Icy on that season. So my guest was, and I'll just say the name, Modest517, right? Like my guest I went to get on the show, my proper guest was Modest517, the guy who inspired me to become a YouTuber, and that was a plan. Modest has told us, it was like a Friday, I'm pretty sure. Modest has told us that we'd be able to record that day, and we'd be able to do the episode, and it was like, yes, awesome. So I was getting a bath, I was getting ready, I'd done all my backdrop, everything. Like I just moved my setup, remember, I just moved my setup from the other side of the room over there, because if you look in Xavier's episode, my setup is the opposite way around. Like you can't see that wall, that's where my desk is. You can see the wall where my desk is now. But I just moved my setup that day. I went and got a bath, got myself ready. I was doing myself up, and then as I was in the bath, just sitting steeping, Joe was messaging me because like, "Yo, are we ready to record this?" Joe had been having an absolute, I can't remember what fully happened before it, but Joe had been having a horrendous day. Like Joe had been having a really fucking shit day.
I'm really trying to remember actually, because
no, I can't recall myself, but like it was a really like a long fucking day, right? You'd had like at this point you were already kind of demotivated, not in the mood to record.
That was before I had a job, so I know it's not work related, but I remember.
No, I think it was Lucy. Maybe I think it was like some stuff with you and Lucy.
Oh no, it was. Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything like whenever people say like, "Oh, it's a relationship thing," they always think the worst thing. But looking back, it's not bad at all. It was
just it gave you a lot of stress. It was a lot of stress it gave him,
Oh, I know
and Joe.
exactly what it was. I'm not saying, but
Remember?
yeah, I know
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was Joe was like under quite a bit of stress, and then we were already like, fuck. Like I want us to be both chill. And anyway, I went and got a bath because like I moved my room about, got a bath, and I had a headache. My head was like thumping. It was killing me. I was feeling ill, but I was like, listen, I've got to power through this so we can record this episode because we want to keep the consistency, right? So I got the bath, but as I was in the bath though, I got a message from Icy on Discord saying, hey, I can record today. And me and Joe were like, wait, what? Like today? Like, are you serious? Because we were going to do Modest episode. And then we were like, right, okay, awesome. That's fucking sweet.
Cue
Let's
the
get it going.
domino effect.
Yeah. And then what happened was I got it back, got myself ready. Joe was there. And if you watch at the beginning of that episode, right, and one day you'll be able to watch the full unedited version, Joe just wasn't happy. Like Joe, Joe, that was probably one of his like episodes where he just didn't want to do it at all. Like, I mean, seriously, like, was not happy. And I say that with love. Like at the beginning of the episode, Joe left the call. We were in a call like this because we do this before and we record before the episode begins.
Actually, like I sometimes I'll jokingly leave calls. I
Yeah.
full on rage quit.
No, he left the call. He was so fucking angry. He had such a bad day, and then all this shit, all this stuff compiling up, right? But then I got a bath, and we're like, we both made a decision. We said, listen, if Modest message today, we'll ignore it, and we'll reschedule for Modest later on, if need be, right? If we can't record it later on tonight, but we'll take priority and do Icy's episode because Icy was definitely flaky. Like his was maybe not going to happen. So if we could do it that day, we wanted to get it done, right? Like that was the point. So we were going to do it though, and if you watch the beginning, you'll see me dancing and fucking running shit like that. That whole beginning there is all fucked up quality and shit like that. And the reason why was because my internet was that bad, but it was also because Joe had been like, I had a headache. I even said at the beginning, I've got a headache. You probably can't even tell. Like, it was because like, my head was killing me, but I was trying to keep cheery and upbeat and whatnot. But Joe came in and Joe was just so angry. Like, Joe was like, I don't. Like, Joe came in and I'm like, honestly, Joe came in and like his room was black. Everything was dark. Joe was sitting there and Joe was like, I don't want to fucking do this. Like, I'm not in the fucking mood. Like, Joe came in and he was like, I don't want to fucking do this. And like, he ended up, I think, you got a call. You got a call from Lucy. He got a call from his girlfriend, Lucy, right? And like, as he got the call, I'm sitting chatting to him, just trying to cheer him up, fucking around, being my silly self. And Joe hung up on me. Like, he left the fucking call. And I remember, that's what, you see me, I go, man done left, man gone left, man done left. I say that fucked up shit jokingly, but Joe had actually left the fucking, Joe was out. Like, I was like, he's not going to record this. He's fucking gone for the night. I had to message him on Facebook. I'm like, Joe. And the reason why I got so more pissed as well, because, the reason why I was more pissed as well was because this was about like 6 o'clock-ish, or no, I think it was like 5 o'clock-ish. We wanted to record earlier. And then Icy said, oh, guys, you have to wait till 6. And we were like, what, why? And it's because Icy had class. He was still doing school stuff, so he had class. So we had to sit for an hour AFK just kind of waiting, right? And like, at this point...
Bear in mind, like, doing that, waiting it around in a suit for an hour...
Yeah, that's why he's pissed. Angry. Joe had been waiting a bit.
A really, like, interesting... Well, that's really pretentious. It's not interesting at all. Like, a little fact about myself, right? If I'm really stressed or I'm having a shit time... or just I feel awful, or the time that I'm going through at that point in the month or weeks, or is bad, I won't wear anything nice. Like, I'll put this on bare minimum. Right just now, a lazy that says a lot because I'm wearing this right now. But like, I'm having a shit time at the moment. But like, if I feel good, I will wear a suit or I'll wear a waistcoat. Yeah. Feel good. But like, if I feel like shit, you're getting bare minimum from dress code.
Yeah, and that's kind of the episode. He was dressed in a suit, but Joe just wasn't in the mood to do it.
Oh,
and
it was like it was coming.
What was worse? Yeah, what was worse was like this was Joe's episodes to direct. So like Joe was like he was leading it. He had to intro it. He had to outro it. He had to do the Forgotten Seven. He had to do like the majority of the questions. Joe was like sailing the episode through. And then as we were recording, like you see me kind of taking the piss throughout the episode about how Joe looks so fucking depressed because he just wasn't. Joe was halfway through, his energy got a little bit more up because we started talking about Apex and he kind of started to get a little bit out of his like hermit crap, right? But like before that, Joe was just not in the fucking vibe, like at all. And my Wi-Fi wasn't helping the situation.
And like look through frames. I'm not watching that episode because it just makes me angry. But like every time I look back at it, I just look at my own like face cam and I'm like, oh my god. It's so
like at points he just walked away.
Angry.
Yeah, he was turning away, walking away, and it was like so abundantly clear. And then that was kind of us. We done Icy's episode, and then it's like, right, well, what happened then? What happened to Modest? What happened to all that kind of stuff? And people, this is probably the first time people are here. Well, this is the first time people hear about Modest.
By the way, we got rid of Leafy because he's a bit flaky.
Yeah.
For someone who we didn't think was going to be the same way.
And then, ironically, he was. We done episode 37, and then we had actually planned to do the next episode, which was 38. We'd already episode 38 was already planned to be what's it, not icy, excuse me, Vloops, because we'd initially, like, the initial schedule this season, we'd actually had another guest plan to come on and whatnot, but because of the World War III episode and because of other things that had happened, we had to scrap one of the guests. They got moved to the next season if we were going to do it in the next season, right? Which we already know about. Ironically, they got moved to the episode 49 when they were going to be episode 39, but because they couldn't be episode 39, they got moved. But yeah, so we done Vloop's episode, or we were gonna, but then what happened was I'd written a bit of the script for Vloop's episode, but I just got kind of burnt out, and this is kind of where we took the kind of burnout stage of the kind of podcast. After Icy's episode, I felt really demotivated with the show. I felt very burnt out. I was exhausted with writing the scripts. I was with I was because forget like the whole kind of 1 week break that we had between episode 35, or the extra 1 or 2 week break that we had between episode 35 and episode 34. We'd been consistent for like 15 weeks, 16, 17 weeks consistently, writing scripts back to back to back, editing episodes, publishing episodes, releasing them. It was becoming a lot for me personally, and I was kind of exhausted. Joe was quite exhausted as well. He had his own stuff going on, but I was extremely exhausted. When I got exhausted, it was like there's no going forward. So I personally just taken a break. I said, Joe, I'm not interested in that show. I'm taking a break.
Welcome back, Burnout, to the TFP podcast
that's
segment.
What it is. Yeah, and that was it. So I took a break for a bit. I just walked away from it. I need to work on my own shit. I need to work on my own channel. I need to take a break, whatever. And that's kind of where we kind of left off. It was horrible, man. We kind of left in this really weird, vague place because Modest was still kind of assured to come on the show for episode 39, and then Vloop was still for episode 38. And we were very excited about those episodes, but I just didn't have the motivation to write the scripts. 2 months later, we finally kind of I get my shit together. I get my own kind of like my own shell. Joe had written a bit of Vloop script as well, and done quite a bit more than me, obviously, because Joe had been waiting for me. He was trying to kind of do the script to motivate me to get back in, but it just wasn't there. We came back though. We done Vloop's episode, recorded that, and
I think Vloop's episode was a bit of a confidence boost as well. I think, honestly, that episode is probably one of my favorites.
That's one of my favorites as well. Vloop's was an amazing episode. Vloop was an amazing guest, and it was such a good return. But I had my motivation back for doing the podcast. But what a lot of people didn't know, sadly, was during this time, the time like for episode 39, and the months that we'd been away, like 3 months that we'd been kind of AFK from the podcast, which was quite a while. We were still talking about TFP. There was still a lot of discussion. One of the main things we've been talking about, the two main things, was we did want to end the show. We wanted to go episode 40 and then end the show, but we wanted to get our last 2 guests that we planned to get on the show. Modest, obviously, for me, because that was a big thing for me. And Vloop, we wanted to get them on the show, and we wanted to finish it in the right way and then do episode 40, reflect, and then call it a night and end the show. And there was a few reasons for that. One was just because we both kind of felt like we reached our limit. We both kind of burnt out. Joe, I think you said Lucy and your dad had even said to you like you were doing too much, and you were burnt out from that. They talked to you about it.
I can't remember exactly what I was working on at the time. It wasn't just video stuff. I think recently, especially just as evidence, my channel at the moment, I had a 3-month break without uploading, not working on stuff. I'm always working on stuff.
Yeah, of course.
3 months break from uploading. I've uploaded a video which did semi decent, and I'll put a lot of effort into. It's now been like 3 weeks again. It's not because I don't want to be working on things. It's just because I'm on the come down, and hopefully on the come down from stress.
Yeah.
I've recently graduated college. That was a big thing. My driving lessons. I've recently done my driving test, which I failed, but I'm getting there. I'm at the test now, so it's not like I'm far off.
You've done the theory.
And then you've got exactly. And the theory was the big thing as well. I retook my theory test 4 times, and that was really getting to me. Like there's a thing with me where like if I fail something enough times, it becomes the only thing that's in my head. Because I'm like, if I just do it, it'll be out the way. But if I don't, I have to keep doing this process,
Yeah, and
that really agitates me. So I was getting annoyed. I was trying to do the podcast, trying to make my own stuff, getting sad that I wasn't making my own stuff. Because when I'm not making things for my own channel or contributing to something that is creative and that I want to do, I get excessively stressed and annoyed because I'm just like, I'm not doing what I want with my life. I'm very existential. And then obviously I then got a job. So I was adjusting to that.
Yeah.
Still am. But, and I, for about a week or so, a week back, I was on the come down from stress. Being like, things are getting better. No, But you know, we move and we are still
We
making
move, yeah.
podcast
We
episodes.
were
But
both
yeah,
really, we were both really in this weird kind of transition because we not stopped for 15. We had the most consistency that we'd ever had on TFP, but we also were having to both work together at a very personal level, pretty much day to day. Like we still speak day to day, but we were having to message each other day to day, multiple voice messages, multiple calls, multiple things. And you know, I'm on the script right, and I was trying to start release. I've been away from my channel for like 6 months, 8 months, whatever, and like I not released any content. Like so, I was like, Joe, I need to get my own shit going. I need to start getting my flagship series and videos out. You know what I mean? And I'd be streaming more and doing Twitch more and whatever. And Joe needed to pass his theory, and Joe needed to get himself his job and do that shit. He had a lot of things that he needed to do, and I had stuff I need to do as well. So we're just taking care of little bits and bobs project wise. My door somehow simultaneously open.
yeah,
It
it
was
was a
magical.
ghost.
Yes, but like we had plenty of shit that we needed to kind of do individually, and that's kind of why it felt like the motive for us taking a break was there. You know, it made sense. Us taking a break was kind of like the logical idea, but we didn't want to take a break midway through the season. We wanted to wrap it up. So what we were doing was we were like, right, Joe's gonna set his theory, get that done, and then you know he's obviously got a job, he's gonna finish college, he's got stuff to do there. I'm gonna continue working on my own channel, my Twitch, on my side passion projects, and we'll leave TFP and we'll come back to it later because we're also paying money monthly for it. That was a big thing as well. Joe and I, you know, earn money different. Like I earn money full time from my work on YouTube, but it's not millions, obviously. And Joe earns money from his work in real life as well, but he also does a little bit of online contracting as well with like editing and stuff like that for YouTubers. Cough, cough. But like, yeah, so he does a bit online. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we've gotten to the head. But yeah, like that's it. So but we don't earn a lot of money. So for us to be putting like it was like, you know, 30 or it was like, what is it, $25 a month for like this thing, $25 a
Yes.
month it is for us to pay for the Streamlabs not
So
Streamlabs,
what?
StreamYard.
£18?
Yeah, like 18 pounds. So that's £9 each. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of money to everybody, but like it's two
It
individuals
stacks.
that are
It's
like
like
trying to
if you
build up.
look at your I'm not sure how many people have like. Well, I mean, hopefully some of you are and are listening to it now. But if you have a Spotify like membership, like I do,
Mhm.
and you look at because like 9.99 doesn't sound like a lot, but then you
No,
look into how much you're then paying yearly,
it's like wow, yeah, shit.
120 something pounds. It's
Yeah,
like
and that's it.
oh
It's quite a bit, and that's how we both kind of thought about it, and we're both like, listen, you know, we're paying this money per month, right? And the TFP isn't earning any money. We aren't doing any episodes. We might as well cancel a subscription. We might as well take a break from the show. We don't have the money to keep putting into it. So our idea was we pay for the subscription one more time for another month because it was still reoccurring, but we're like we'll pay for one more month. And then we'll end the show. We'll end that month. We'll record episode 40, episode 39, and 30, and that'll be us. We'll end it there. So we recorded loops, but during the entire month's break, even though we were not really talking as much because we were doing our own stuff, there was one big thing on our mind, and that was getting episode 39's guest nailed down. And that was Modest 517. Now, Modest, I'd obviously wanted to get on the show for a long time. Modest was the guy who inspired me to become a YouTuber. It was like a huge thing for me to get him on the show. And I had his script, like still, it's there. It's the best written script I've ever made for this podcast, I'd say. And it's incredible. I watched legitimately every single one of his videos to write an amazing script. I watched all of his stuff. Like I'm telling you, it was insane. But Modest, he cancelled basically. He didn't cancel. He didn't get back to us. We have now waited months on Modest getting back to us. Like Modest, it was so sad, man, because
something
you know,
about transparency doesn't sit
yeah, it's
right with
something.
me.
It doesn't. But like, it was like we said for episode 37 that day we were gonna record with Modest on Friday, but obviously we ended up doing it with Icy. But Modest didn't know that. Modest was meant to be there, and he never contacted us. He never messaged, and then we found out later that he went out drinking. So he wasn't even interested. He was never going to be there to begin with. So we made the right call, canceling his episode to do Icy's. And then when we did try and reschedule dozens of times after, he just didn't get back to us. And like, I'm not trying to expose Modesty or be like rude or trashy with him. Like, yeah, listen, please, you know, if he ever sees this or if anybody ever sees this, you know, or listens to this, excuse me, and thinks, oh, what a bad guy. Like, hey, man, you have your own opinion, you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, it just sucked, man. Like, I messaged Modest to try and find the messages between me and him, like just to kind of give an example here, right? I'd messaged Modest, let me just check here how many times. It was like legitimately ridiculous amounts. To no avail, to like no avail. The last time I spoke to Modest was on the 12th of April 2022. And obviously right now it's July, you know. I messaged him saying he can probably start for the response. I tried to get in touch with him then. Then on the 27th of May, I tried to get in touch with him. He didn't get back to me. 31st of May didn't get back to me. The 1st of June didn't get back to me. The 8th of June didn't get back to me. On the what was it? It was like the 15th. I ended up trying to follow him on his Instagram. Didn't get back to me. I got Rita messaged him. He got back to her. Wouldn't contact me though. And inherently, we had to make the decision because we were holding off from recording the 39th episode because we couldn't without Modest. and we didn't want to have to reschedule. We
I
were
want
holding
to
off from
quickly
recording
put
it.
a message out there for people that are going to work with people online in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell someone that you're going to do something, tell them, not everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And well, yeah, so Modest episode just didn't happen, and that was absolutely heartbreaking. And it wasn't until like a week or two ago we had to kind of make that difficult decision to say, like, listen, it's not going to happen. Modest has made it clear that he's got other things going on. He said that to Ree, at least. He hasn't said it to me directly. And I mean, yeah, man, it destroyed me, because it was like, dude, I wanted to finish off this season of the show, season 4, on a right note. We've went through so much this season, moving houses and things in our lives changing and whatnot, that we wanted to finish it off on the right level. Like, we really wanted to end it on the right note. So to not be able to end it, we got Vloop on, which was incredible, and Modest episode would have been great as well, but Modest never got back. And then we had to replace his with New Freedom, who was going to come on for the next season of the show. But New Freedom politely agreed to come on this season for obviously episode 39 to be that filler episode, kind of like to take Modest's spot, which was a shame. But New Freedom's episode was great as well. But like obviously, which then it was a little bit played by a little bit, obviously, Joe leaving and whatnot. But yeah, and that was kind of us for the season, guys. That's kind of all the stuff that happened. You could probably tell, like, it's just been a lot, man. You know, like, we were waiting on people canceled, things happened, things didn't work. It was a lot, man. It was a lot, to say the least. And the whole kind of, you probably heard us say, obviously, we were considering ending, you know, with episode 40. That was kind of like the big thing. Just to clarify and put out there, obviously, we're not ending episode 40. We're not ending anytime soon. We've actually got a bit of a mad announcement to make, which I guess we can make now. We're an hour into the episode, obviously. But we are not ending the episodes, or we're not ending the podcast, which is good news, I'm sure, for a lot of people, which I'm very happy to say. I hope Joe feels the same way.
Boo.
Boo! I was hoping for you to say it. Like, no, we decided before we came back with episode 38, before we recorded Vloop's episode, that I kind of said to Joe, I said, listen, man, I can't see TFP ending now. Like, you know, if we end this now, we're probably never going to come back to it. And we're so close. Like, me and Joe are like that away from getting monetization, which means that we can maybe potentially earn some extra money from this show. It'll be it'll be a big thing. Our goal for this year with this podcast, my goal that I set back in the beginning of the year, the beginning of 2022, was I wanted to reach, I think it was 2,500 subscribers on this podcast, I think.
Yep.
And 50,000.
No, that was exactly it. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, 2,500 subscribers on the podcast, 50,000 combined channel views, and monetization. Right now, we're pretty much we're at 30,000 views out of the 50,000. We're at 1,750 subs, right? So we've only got 750 to go, which is still a bit. Don't get me wrong, but like, we could definitely do that 100%, especially if we're active. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, that's the thing. And we've got half the watch time hours to be able to get monetization. So we're halfway. Like, this is the point where, like, we can make or break. And the fact that we had 3 episodes, with, obviously being my god, it's terrible, Xavier's episode, Wasabi's, yeah, and obviously Frybri's all pop off and do well in the algorithm and get good watch time and good views, just shows that if we're consistent, this podcast could really do well in the foreseeable future. We just got to keep that consistency. And that's kind of where we're at, guys. That's kind of where we're at the minute. We're like, we're not going to end it. So we got a bit of an announcement. We have actually just officially, yesterday, in fact, on the 3rd of July, 2022, we have bought a year-long subscription to the actual StreamYard site, which is like, whoa.
But not just us.
Not just us, yeah. So to make this happen, it was going to require some help. We both kind of agreed, and money. We both kind of agreed that, paying, it was going to be, I think it's $260, I believe it was. Is it $260? I think it is. $260 it was. Yeah, 260 or 240. Is it 240? I'm trying to think what it is.
Was it? I swear it was 260, but I might be wrong.
No, I think it's 240. In fact, no, it is 240. It's 240. So it's $240 for the year, basically. You save money by doing it, but it's like, instead of...
Oh, no, wasn't that £60 was quarterly, wasn't it?
That was it, yeah, something like that. So yeah, so for the entire year it was $260 or $240, which is a lot of money, even in pounds converted, whatever. It's still a lot of money, but we reached out to 2 of our friends, Hilo Souls and obviously, of course, Xavier, who have both been on the podcast, and they both are, like what we mentioned already, running their own podcast, the Outcast podcast. I presented the idea to them saying, listen, would you guys be willing to potentially go quarters and on us getting the subscription? That means you guys can also use this site as well, because they've got their own podcast, which is kind of like a spin-off of TFP, but obviously it's built up more as well. They're doing like a community podcast. And we plan on working with them very closely in the foreseeable future with helping them build up their podcast, and also us, having them on the show. You will see them on the show in this next season, I assure you. But yeah, we basically said to them, would you guys be willing to help us kind of keep TFP alive? Because, like, unless you guys kind of come in on this or someone else comes in on this, we can't do this. Like me and Joe can take a quarter of the price each, which is like $60 each, right?
Yeah, it's like
We
£42. No,
£42.
£48. Sorry.
£48, something like that. Yeah, so we're £48 each. We can both do that each. We can invest that much money into the show, but we can't excuse £100 each or more. Like we can't do that. We don't have the funds. We do, but even if we did, like it's just we can't invest that into the show.
It's
We
too
aren't in that
much,
position.
like for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And amazingly, Hilo and both Xavier both were like, hell yeah, man, let's get it going. They've got now, because when we use StreamYard, we have two what's called seats. One is for our podcast account, and the other one was what Joe used, which is how you download the videos. And that's kind of like two admin seats, which is one for the main account, one for the side account. We've gave that extra seat to obviously the Outcast podcast on their main account, and now they can use it. And yeah, now we are in collaboration and partnered kind of thing, working closely with the Outcast podcast crew, which is Axel Little Potato, Cheese Master 777, Hilo Souls, of course, and Xavier underscore 2073. We're working with them obviously now to make this happen, and we've just yesterday, as I said, we've just paid for the year-long subscription. So for the next year, you will be seeing TFP because we'll be able to make episodes. And I mean, on that note, it's great, man. Like I'm very happy to finally say that we've invested a bit more into the show, and we're about to take it to the next level.
All efforts to make it look a bit more professional, and I want to say my favorite thing from that is getting rid of that goddamn
The logo,
thing.
yeah. So we might as well talk about, now that we've kind of discussed, there's a lot. I know this is a big kind of episode already, but we're talking about a lot, but I don't care, man. We have a lot to discuss. Episode 30 didn't really let us get this out of our system, so this is what it is, right? But going on from there, I kind of wanted to share the new changes that have happened within this season of the show that you might have seen that will be getting carried on to the next season. One of them that happened on, I think it was actually a New Freedoms episode onwards, not Vloop's episode,
Yes.
which that was us removing the logo, which was from the top right of the screen. You might have seen it right now. If you haven't, I'll fling up right now on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. It's that logo right there, our logo in the top right, right?
Which is bad for me personally.
Yeah, it was bad because
typically when we would have a guest,
whenever
we
we
have
do this,
another person at the bottom.
Yeah. Whenever we get someone on the show, basically in a nutshell, we take screenshots of us all together like this, and we take a funny screenshot, and it's just like it's like taking a memorable moment, obviously, and kind of it's memorizing, and it's great. I love it, right? And we do it every single time, but because of the way we do it and whatnot, Joe's face was kind of like getting messed up, or his side was getting messed up.
It was always obscured by the logo.
Yeah, which absolutely just sucks, honestly. So we've officially gotten rid of that because I think that's for the better, and that was a little change that we made, but a big one. Joe's kind of been perfecting the editing. That's a big change. Joe's kind of perfected it now, so a lot of the funny moments are getting crammed in at the beginning, but also there's still great editing throughout the entire thing. Obviously, Joe's an amazing editor with it all. I think we've also, I mean, Joe, you can talk more on the editing side. I think we have kind of altogether kind of removed background music, haven't we? Because you haven't been putting any background music in any of the episodes.
The thing is, I decided personally that the content was better without it. I feel like because it's not really our own music, it's not ours.
Yeah.
Right. But because it's not ours, I just don't want people to attach us to that. I feel like when we're speaking, it gives us more reason to speak consistently and more interestingly about things,
as opposed to
I just think the music kind of in a weird way devalues what we're speaking about, because if it goes quiet or there's a moment where there's meant to be, in like conversation, if there's meant to be a natural pause and then you hear a bit of music, it's just, I don't know, it feels weird.
I
think
when
I'm listening to it back, it sounds better without it, because you've already got the little bit of music that you associate with the podcast via the intro, and I can joke around with things, outro,
like
intro. But throughout the whole thing, I think it's kind of nice to keep it as less polluted as possible.
I agree, and I think that's a change that's kind of been made throughout the season. Joe kind of came to, and I'm very much on board with that. I really appreciate that. This is the thing, we both have our own individual skills. Joe's kind of taken that. That's a new change that we made. So all future episodes want a background music, which to some might not be good, but I think Joe said it very well there. It kind of is important.
If those
to have
don't
it
like it, feel free to open another tab.
Play some lo-fi in the background, Joe, so while you're listening.
Yeah, it works.
But it does make more sense. It also amplifies the intro and the outro song. I love getting to the end of an episode and hearing the outro, because when that happens, Joe always has a fancy edit at the end, or normally does. I mean, for Vloop's episode, for example, we had this like weird kind of like like cartoony kind of like like the Warner Brothers kind of like like Pepper Pig kind of or not Pepper Pig. What was the name? Porky Pig. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's like that's all, folks. Kind of like the circles. You kind of done some stuff. I don't know if that was your inspiration, but that's what I took away from it.
I could not remember what you're talking about.
You're right. You know how in the end of like Warner cartoons, like Warner Brothers, like a
no, I know what you're on about, but like I don't remember doing that.
And Vloop's episodes, you had Vloop's face, and then you had your face and my face saying goodnight, and it was like a little circle.
Oh, yeah, no, that wasn't at the end. That was like near the beginning.
Was at the end. That was at the end.
Was it? I swear that
the
was
end of the episode.
Was like
the very end of the outro. That was the end of the outro. That was at the outro. I think you done it at the beginning as well, but you done it at the outro. It
Maybe,
was
yeah.
great. You did, and it was good. It was good,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was like, yeah, I think it was really good because I love how when I hear the intro and outro music, that's the only music that you hear, and it makes it a lot more amplified. It's like that's the beginning, that's the end. It begins, it
It's
ends, and
more
there's a middle.
defining. It allows you to realize when I know everyone's like, oh, I can tell when the beginning and the end is. I get
But
that.
yeah,
But when
yeah,
you've got that little bit of like signature music, it kind of gets,
it
the
helps.
point
It helps
across more.
end. It helps begin a chapter and end a chapter. Close it and start it. You know what I'm saying, which is good. Or start it and close it. So another change as well that we've introduced, obviously, with removing the logo and obviously, of course, the music, but also, and this is our third and final, really, is the introduction of a trailer for the show. We really found a lot of success with the trailer. I think the trailer was a great addition to the channel.
I
I
didn't
really do.
expect it to do that well, to
The
be
trailer, a
honest.
lot of people really, I think, digged the trailer, but the trailer was kind of botched because the trailer actually was meant to include multiple moments from the episodes of previous episodes, but Joe kind of really wasn't able to because it was very new. But I can say this right here, but the next season of the show will before season 5 starts, which is episodes 40 to 50. We've already planned out all the guests. We've already got it all under construction. We've done a lot of it. This is the most scheduled and most like scripted and kind of like structured season that we've ever done, unlike this season. But season 5 is going to have a trailer. And as opposed to it just being a channel trailer, we're going to release a new trailer every single season before the season begins. So I don't know what the distance will be between episode 40 and the first episode of the next season. So episode 41, right? It could be a week. It could be 2. Most likely, we'll take an extra week when we release a trailer. So like this will release on, say, Saturday, right? The next Saturday, the trailer will release. And then the Saturday after that, the first episode of the next season would release. But the trailer for the seasons will be a seasonal thing, right? The old trailers will get probably kept unlisted or whatnot. And the cool thing about them is it'll include little snippets from every one of the episodes for this whole next season. We're going to be pre-recording the whole of the next season in advance. We've already kind of got all that started right now. We're going to be recording the whole next season in advance to have it all edited, all done, and all locked away before even the first episode of that season begins. So none of the issues that we've had this season will begin or happen. And with that, a great thing with that, and a really awesome thing, is that we won't have the same issues we've had this season. We'll have the most consistency we've ever had with like 13 weeks or 14 weeks of consistency. And hopefully, by the time we get to episode 50, which will be actually in October, by the time that comes out, we'll have been back for a year and we'll be on 50 episodes, and also we'll have monetization and hit our goal. Here's hoping. That's a golissimo, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's some of the stuff now. Now, obviously, the last thing I wanted to kind of touch on before we end this Red episode, just kind of to share our personal opinions. I wanted us both to kind of say what our favorite episode is from this season, if we had to choose one, or the hardest to produce episode from the season individually, what we'd say, and the funniest episode from the season. It's a bit of a kind of a weak, kind of like almost like cheap.
Do you want to choose the first category, and then we'll both say the same? Like we'll both say our answer.
Wait, we'll go with the funniest episode then. I'll let you. Okay, we'll both say it. Well, like at the same time or just differently.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'd say the funniest episode for me would be
Vloop.
I'd say Xavier's.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say Xavier's.
Xavier's was funny. I think
Xavier's was. I think Vloop was great.
Vloop's
Vloop was
intro
hilarious.
Was my favorite thing.
Vloop's intro was fantastic. I'd say Xavier's episode was the funniest we've recorded this season, and it was also one of the funniest episodes we've done. I think before that was mainly Lockdot. You know, remember from the previous season?
I was literally about to say, if we're gonna go
Lockdot
of
was
all
good.
time, I'd probably say Lockdot.
Lockdot from all time.
He's just such a funny man.
It got mud in his cup. It's Lockdot of all time, but like I think Xavier's was definitely the funniest this season. It was a highlighted episode, a really good one, 100%. Well, that's fair. That's 2 fair answers. And I think Vloop's was a great episode. What would you say is the hardest to produce episode from the season if you had to choose? I'll let you go first this time. I'm gonna have a think.
Icy Ops.
I think you're right.
Out of pure frustration.
I think I have to agree with you there. I think Icy Ops would probably be the hardest to produce episode this season. I think honestly that or Modest. Obviously Modest didn't really get
but Modest
produced
hasn't
or
been done. That's why
no,
I didn't choose Modest.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I'd say Icy then, 100%. Icy was the hardest to produce this season. Icy did not make the entire experience the easiest. I wish it had been easier. I wish it could have been a lot better for us both. But it was a learning curve. But yeah, it was probably the hardest to produce this season. That's a fair answer then for us there. And what is what is your favorite episode from this season? If you had to choose an all-time favorite.
Probably
Vloops. Vloops, that's a fair. You gave Vloop a lot of good bit there right now. Oh, I'm trying to think.
I don't know. I feel like the energy worked very well. And
it did.
The script was fluent.
It did. See, I'm kind of tied a little bit because I really did enjoy Vloops, but I also really, and I mean really passionately enjoyed Wasabi's.
I was going to say mine was close, Wasabi and Vloop. I
Wasabi and
think
Vloop are very close. I
I
think Wasabi's was good and so was Vloop's. I think Vloop's quality was better. I think in terms of quality, but I did. There's a certain energy about Wasabi's that I really enjoy.
yeah, no, I genuinely was gonna say Wasabi or Vloop, but I feel like
Mm.
my reason for Vloop is I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stories he told were quite memorable, and there was a lot of funny aspects when it came to like language barriers, and
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. He had a lot more to speak about. I think Wasabi was funny, and he's a great guy to chat with. But when it comes
Mm.
to story based stuff and questions, I think he won in that regard.
Mm. Mm. No, okay, that's
So
fair enough. That's
I
fair
would
enough.
say Wasabi is definitely a very close second.
Wasabi, I would say, is a very close second. Yeah, I'd say Wasabi is my first, and Vloop being like this kind of the opposites, where Vloop would be a very close second. Vloop was an amazing episode. I must say, I loved it. It was an amazing experience, but I'd say Wasabi is so to the fact it was our most popular episode of all time, the fact it done so well, the fact that Wasabi is so polite, it was so interesting, and it was just a really interesting beginning. I think Wasabi's is up there for me, definitely, 100% as a favorite, and that's pretty fair. Well, I think we've really bantered about everything we need to kind of get our system. I don't really think there's anything else that I've kind of forgotten to obviously mention here, not mentioned in general. I'm pretty sure that's everything. We've recovered joining forces with the Outcast crew, the new changes in the season, the struggles we went through the season, all the episodes, and also our personal opinions on season 4. And I think that's really mainly, honestly, us. And I'm quite happy to say that, honestly. Like, guys, to anybody listening right now, if you're still listening, you're an absolute trooper. Thank you so much for listening to us. This hasn't been easy, man. Like to get to episode 40 has been a struggle. I definitely would say this is the hardest season we've ever went through and we've ever had to produce. I'm saying, of the show, I'd say.
I think
Uh,
production wise, yeah, I would say it was
it
probably the
is, yeah,
hardest to do.
hardest
I
production
think
wise.
that's because it's a mixture of circumstance, schedule,
Yeah,
you know,
people, yeah,
changes, people.
yeah.
It's a lot that goes into it. It's not just sit. If thing is, if this podcast was just we'll sit down, just me and you, and we'll talk about
Hmm.
something, it would be on episode 100.
Oh yeah, easily,
But
yeah, yeah,
like it's not like that. So yeah,
yeah,
no, I think give credit where it's due. It's been a hard
yeah.
season, but I think getting to the end of it and being
It's
able
been
to
interesting.
pre-record the next season will be a massive pro
A
and
hundred
very
percent.
good.
I think I'm very excited for episode 50 to be able to reflect. I honestly, like this was to us guys. There was a point where this was going to be the end of the show. This was going to be like the end of us, doing TFP. And I'm so glad that we're not ending it. I'm so glad that we've decided to make this big leap to going for a full year subscription to have that commitment. That's dealt with. That's done. There's no going back from that now. And I'm really, really, really happy with that. I think it's going to be very interesting and very fascinating. And I hope that you all will be along to join us. I know that we have been very inconsistent over these past couple months. I know we're back now, obviously, with 3 weeks of consistency by this episode's release. We're going to have, obviously, New Freedom's episode coming out for episode 39, which New Freedom was an amazing guest. I mean, I did German guest. And obviously, we've got Loops for episode 30, and obviously 40 is this. And hopefully next week, obviously, we'll have the trailer for the next season. If we don't, it'll be out the week after that. Whatever, we'll get it out as soon as it's done. But honestly, that sounds lovely. Sounds lovely.
Yeah, that's just my bed taking off.
That that's the PlayStation starting.
Yeah, I've just turned it on. It just literally loaded
I
up. So
it's been a very difficult season, but a very interesting season. It's allowed us to grow a lot more as podcast hosts and allowed us to find our footing. I must say, it's something that I've not mentioned. This next season, be prepared. Be prepared, and I mean that. We have planned it out very carefully, and that this next season will be a very mature season. We have kind of decided, especially with this season and at the end of last season with Rolly and Dragon and some other stuff that we haven't through with obviously some guests, we no longer want to get on people that are younger than 15, younger than 13. We want to get on guests that are a little bit more mature and older. Vloop, he's the oldest guest we had on. He was 46. We have guests in the next season that have kids, that are adults. We have things planned, and I mean, dudes, it's going to be really, really, really interesting. We have a lot of more mature guests coming on this next season. I
I'm
really
going to
think that's
become
going
the
to be very
youngest
interesting.
person on this podcast.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I think it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, another big caveat, obviously, of course, for this episode, I just kind of want to acknowledge is the difference between us. I think that we've tried to reiterate this with our characters. Joe is the cynical guy. I'm the more hyperactive, kind of like happy guy kind of thing, and that's kind of like the energy we kind of try and give off. But also Joe's kind of the bearded guy. I want to be the more clean shaven, maybe getting rid of the stash. I'm keeping the stash for the
Do
time
I have to
being.
get rid of my stash?
No, no,
For,
no, no,
like,
no, no,
one
no, no, no.
beer?
You can keep that. You can keep that. That's what it is. But Joe's got the long hair. I'm growing in my hair again, which is pretty cool. I've got the curls, so like the afro, and obviously I've got glasses now. That's kind of a thing. Obviously, I
I didn't mean to not wear mine today. Just just because you did. I'm not that
was accidental.
antithesis based.
Yeah, that's what it is. But like, I've got glasses now. I had to get glasses. I kind of in between the break that we have from Icy's episode to the next.
There was a little bit of time as well where Joe was like, "I'm not going to wear them. I need to wear them. Like, I actually have a prescription, but just because I don't want people to know at this point in time on the podcast timeline, I won't wear them."
I purposely made it a deal where like I wouldn't wear them. He's
destroyed the last 2 years of his life with his eyes. So
that's what. My eyes have been destroyed. So like in the minute I can go without glasses, but reading scripts, if you're watching Icy's episode of Loop's episode or like New Freedoms, I'm not wearing my glasses. I don't wear them that often in general, but like if I'm reading, I really should.
Mine's for screens in general, but mainly for reading on screens. And we're not on script today, so that's why they're
no, that's it. But like if I am reading scripts from the future, I will be most likely wearing my glasses like this. So I hope you guys all like my style. I hope I look pretty damn fashionable. And guys, I really truly hope for me and Joe both that you're excited for the next season of the show. Season 5, episode 40 to 50. We're going to be doing some big stuff and we got some big things planned. I think it's going to be very interesting. And we really truly hope that y'all will be with us along the way. And I've got to say, everybody so far really seems to be enjoying the show. I get a lot of messages from friends and a lot of people that just love what we do. And I think that's just fantastic. I'm so thankful that we have such an amazing dynamic here and we have such an amazing show and audience. So thank you to those who watch it. But yeah, any last words, Joe? You want to sign it off, man? We'll call it a night there, bro. We'll end it here.
Oh, I could do. That would be good fun. Okay, right. Thank you very much for watching.
Sorry.
It Folds.
I'd like to see you wiggle for sure.
For sure.
We gotta play the part of us.
I thought you were gonna.
Why don't we just get up and just dance? Why don't we just dance for the ending? Come on, yes, good man.
I'm in the worst mood possible, so this hurts my brain a little bit.
I'm gonna put my collar and everything. So
let me just clear some space.
My money don't jiggle. It folds. I like to see you wiggle.
Fight, you know.
What? Sorry? Are we gonna square up?
Fight.
Yeah, square, bro.
Yeah, but I look so lanky like this, though.
You want to try square, bro?
Blind.
Bro, it's blind. You know what I'm saying? Want to try and square, bro? You know what I'm saying? I'm ready, man. I'm a Tekken character. You know what I'm saying, bro? We're gonna square, man. Come on, man. Let's get going, huh?
Oh, we're get up.
We gotta square up. Oh shit. Well, yo, you can't use Matt. Hey, yo, let's go, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's go. Get on camera, man.
Like
pussy.
Our stance.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's get going. You know what I'm saying? Yes, man. You know what I'm saying?
What the fuck are we doing? Right, I need to like. Oh, I haven't played with this in a while.
Oh shit, he's got a sword after you cut yourself last time.
No, that was the axe.
That was the axe. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, how dare you? I love telling people that I've got an axe scar, and they never believe me.
Can we just acknowledge that we're both wearing shorts? Look at this man wearing shorts. I look great. Look at this. I look phenomenal. We gonna square up? Is this how we're gonna end it?
Shorts? How dare you?
What if we done like a Rocky Balboa? Like you know how Rocky and Apollo fight and then it ends with them both like punching each other and you don't know who wins?
I've never seen Rocky.
Oh, dude, we need to watch Rocky together.
Well, if I ever come up to you, we'll watch Rocky.
Yes, we will watch Rocky. Okay, so is this how we're ending? You left a sword.
Oh yeah, we're doing that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Alright, go on. Thank you very much for watching this episode of The Forgotten Podcast. This has been episode 40, and we can't wait to see you again in the next season, episode 5. Sorry, I honestly, all I saw was the movement in the left-hand corner of my screen, and I thought you were having a stroke. I got genuinely worried for you.